Dreams are weird, right? I mean, think about it. How often do you dream? Now, when I was a kid, I used to dream a lot. Or at least it feels that way now. I even used to have recurring dreams. I had one about a wolf that would watch me in the night. I had another dream about a room full of toys that would talk to me. And I had another one where a friendly fox would play with me. And, like most kids, I had a lot of nightmares too about being chased or being lost. These days, I feel like I hardly ever dream, or at least I almost never remember the dreams once I've woken up. Usually I'm just left with vague, spooky impressions, like a house with lots of hallways and lots of doors, or really random situations like a snippet of a conversation I'm having with a celebrity I have definitely never met. Maybe part of why I don't remember much about my dreams is because I tend to shrug them off. Personally, I don't attribute much to my dreams. From my perspective, they're, kind of interesting, but ultimately meaningless. Now, that's not the case for everyone. Some people view dreams as premonitions or believe they have hidden information or even view them as a way to commune with spirits. Now, if you're Ebenezer Scrooge, it's all three.
You are an old potato. It's humbug, I tell you. It's a lot of...
But regardless of how you interpret them, we can all agree that dreams are weird, right? I mean, it's pretty bizarre that humans have to sleep to begin with. Why spend a third of our lives unconscious? But even more than that, why spend hours of that unconsciousness hallucinating? Why on earth does my brain whip up these weird dreams about my teeth falling out or being naked in class or being chased by monsters? What is going on up there? And how is this normal? Dreams are weird, right? This video is sponsored by Imprint. Okay, before we even get into things, I want your unbiased opinion. What do you think dreams are? How do you personally make sense of them? Pause the video and write it down in the comments below, and then I'll dive in. Okay, so how many of you said that you think dreams have some deeper meaning or have some significance contained within them? In many, maybe even most cultures, dreams have been considered messages from the gods loaded with divine purpose. Like in Egypt and Mesopotamia, some of the earliest historical accounts of dreaming describe them as a means through which the gods conveyed their desires to humanity, and they were believed to be prophetic. People have been building resources for interpreting dreams since at least 1275 BC, when a dream book in Egypt included a list of dreams and symbols for understanding them. It seems like dream interpretation was a pretty common practice at that time. People would often speak with priests or even special dream oracles to get assistance with interpreting their dreams and gaining insight into how they should respond to these messages from the gods. This trend continued through Greek and Roman cultures, though there were some in ancient Greece who began to consider the possibility that dreams actually come from within. And ancient Eastern cultures had somewhat similar views, but usually with a less deity-focused perspective. In some Hindu scriptures, dreams are considered either expressions of inner desires or are cases where a person's spirit is being guided outside the body. In Buddhist texts, dreams are considered a kind of foresight into the future. And Chinese historical texts describe dreaming as part of the soul leaving the body and traveling to a dream realm in our sleep. But back in Greece, Aristotle wrote 3 essays on the subject of dreaming, and he roundly rejected the idea that dreams were prophetic. And instead, Aristotle proposed that dreams were caused by impressions that moved through the bloodstream and activated sensations in the heart. Oh yeah, that makes way more sense. Christianity reawoke the idea that dreams were a result of divine powers, but generally speaking, Aristotle's essays marked a shift in how Western cultures thought about dreaming. Now, dreams were considered to be internally generated, motivated by one's inner desires or emotions. During the Renaissance, the Italian physician Girolamo Cardano developed a theory of dreaming where the 4 humors, which are blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm, each corresponded to a different type of dream. So if a person had too much of one of their humors, it would affect the type of dreams they had. Now, while Cardano was pretty far off the mark on the mechanism, he was the first recorded instance of someone drawing a relationship between the physical body, its emotions, and the content of dreams. And then, of course, by the late 1800s, psychoanalysis entered the scene, and it was all about that dream interpretation. Dreams were closely analyzed, as it was believed they could provide insights into the dreamer's psyche. In his highly influential book, The Interpretation of Dreams, Freud laid out his own personal theory. He believed that dreams are a sort of wish fulfillment generated by the unconscious mind to resolve a conflict. He saw dreams as a means to uncover the true unconscious self. Now, Freud's trainee turned contemporary Carl Jung saw dreams as a sort of symbolic self-portrait of the state of the unconscious mind. Jung's theory relied heavily on symbols and their meanings, particularly with relation to the dreamer. Generally, psychoanalysts believe that dreams could help explain things about the self that could not be easily seen or understood in the waking self. In more recent years, as we've begun to better understand the physical nature of dreams and the neurobiology of the brain, theories have tended to focus more on the biological purpose of dreaming. This especially exploded after the pioneering research done by Azarinsky and Kleitman that identified REM sleep as a distinct sleep stage and connected dreams to REM sleep. We're pretty sure that other animals dream, which means that it's probably not a uniquely human thing, and it probably evolved pretty far down on our family tree. But why evolve this weird trait at all? Is it just a byproduct of our big, beautiful brains? Some people feel that dreaming must have some sort of evolutionary advantage. So for example, there's the threat simulation hypothesis, which says that dreams might have helped our ancestors survive by giving our brains an opportunity to practice dealing with dangerous threats. So like, for example, in your dream, you're running away from monsters or whatever trying to catch you. Maybe that's just your brain practicing for running away from saber-toothed tigers. Another popular theory about why dreaming evolved is that dreaming must help us learn. They must be part of some process that helps us solidify our memories and helps our brain retain information. This theory is supported by some evidence that dreaming correlates with improved learning. And I think this theory is pretty intuitive. I think it's the one that I like the best. Thinking goes that because brain structures we know are involved in processing memories when we're awake get activated during REM sleep, dreaming might also be helping the brain replay memories. And one of the most fundamental rules about the brain is that when the brain reactivates the same neural pathways, those circuits get stronger. So maybe you're just practicing things in your brain again. Now, on the flip side, another theory championed by Francis Crick of Watson and Crick frame and his colleague Graham Mitchison posits that dreaming actually has the opposite effect. And instead of solidifying circuits, dreams actually allow the brain to clean up junk and get rid of unhelpful connections. More recently, some scientists have argued that dreams might just be a way for the brain to protect our occipital lobe from invasion while we're sleeping. I think it's kind of a weird theory, but the thought is that dreams might have evolved as visual hallucinations that occur during sleep in order to prevent other senses from taking over the precious real estate the brain uses for visual processing. Because when we're sleeping, our eyes are closed and they aren't processing any visual information during that time. Other theorists, inspired by machine learning, have argued that dreams might be valuable for helping our brains handle new situations, basically by introducing noise into our mental processes while we're sleeping, so we don't get too stuck in the rut of our daily routines and habits. So if you compare it to like a language learning model or something, they're limited by the set that they work with. You could think of our brain as being limited by our daily routines, right? We're doing the same thing all the time. We get limited in what we're processing. So dreaming maybe just introduces some noise into that, and it just makes it easier for us to adapt to new information. But of course, there's also always the possibility that dreams don't actually have an evolutionary advantage, and they could just be the byproduct of other critical brain processes. Right now, we just don't really know why we dream. Much like sleep, we know it's universal, we know it probably plays some function, we just haven't figured out the details yet. Part of the challenge is figuring out what exactly a dream is in the brain. Now, we dream when we sleep, and sleep is itself fairly complicated. If you want to learn more about sleep and some theories on why we do it, you can take a dive back into the Neurotransmissions archive and check out one of the first videos we ever made all about sleep. Now, as a bonus, if you go and watch that video, you can see what Micah and I looked like almost a decade ago. So young, so relaxed, so much more sleep. But for the purpose of this conversation, let's just consider that sleep has two main stages. There's rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, and non-REM sleep. Now, you've probably heard that dreaming happens during REM sleep, and it is true that most dreaming happens during this stage of sleep. But not all of it. REM sleep is named for the characteristic rapid movement of your eyes behind your eyelids. And during REM sleep, the brain's activity patterns look more like they do when you're awake than they do during other stages of sleep, as measured by an EEG. Your breathing and your heart rate also speed up to resemble a waking state, but thanks to the repression of certain neurotransmitters, your limbs are generally paralyzed to prevent you from flailing about in your sleep when you're dreaming. We do know that some people, this doesn't always happen, right? Like some people sleepwalk or have other sleep disorders, so that's why I say generally. Unlike other sleep stages where the brain's activity is synchronized into wave patterns, REM sleep has these rapid, desynchronized brainwaves. And though REM sleep resembles the waking brain, there are also some really important differences, like less communication between the front and the back of the brain and more communication between the left and the right hemispheres. Some people think that this might be why dreams can feel so chaotic, and also why it can feel like dreams can unlock new ideas or creative perspectives. Because basically the brain is testing out different communication patterns than it uses when we're awake. And like sleep generally, we are pretty sure that REM sleep is required for us to survive. Animal studies have shown that depriving rats of REM sleep leads to death, though over a longer time course than total sleep deprivation. Now, subjectively speaking, dreaming often feels much like being awake. Usually, we don't even know we're dreaming until we've woken up. Using brain imaging techniques like fMRI and PET scans, we've started to understand a little bit about which brain regions are active during dreaming. So, unsurprisingly, much of the activation resembles waking patterns. So, the hippocampus is active during dreams involving memories, while the amygdala is active during dreams featuring strong emotional themes. Dreams tend to be very visual, so it also makes sense that many visual brain regions are also active during dreaming. And also, perhaps unsurprisingly, dreams tend to reflect the realities of our individual brains. So, for example, children's dreams tend to reflect their developmental stage, and people with brain lesions that affect their cognition or visual processing have the same challenges in their dreams. Okay, I want to take a quick side note here. One of the papers I read about the neurophysiology of dreaming had a really interesting section about the development of dreams in children, which was so fascinating to learn about. For example, preschoolers report very simple, boring dreams, like thinking about lunch, and they don't feature social interactions or emotional situations. They also don't dream of themselves as active characters, and in fact, it's not until about the age of 7 that children report becoming active characters in their own dreams. Little kids who are good at mental imagery report more dreams than peers who are better at language or memory. And these differences between the dreams of children and adults are probably related to the fact that kids' brains are still growing and forming connections. And so some of the brain structures and regions that contribute to adult dreams aren't fully online in children, and thus the quality of their dreams are different. See? Dreams are weird. After my baby was born, I'd often wonder what she was dreaming about when she was lying there asleep. Based on this research, it seems like she was probably just dreaming about milk, diaper changes, and maybe being rocked, I guess. But back to the main point. It's maybe more useful to focus on how dreams and waking are different rather than talking about their similarities. In dreams, we generally don't have a lot of control over what we dream about or what we do in the dream. This might be because the right inferior parietal cortex, which is involved in waking volition, seems to be deactivated during REM sleep. And the prefrontal cortex also has reduced activity during dreaming, which may be why dreams that seem totally bananas when we're awake seem completely normal and fine when we're dreaming. Basically, the prefrontal cortex is responsible for handling a lot of the reasoning and self-awareness that's key for realizing when you're in a really wild situation. So it seems like, on paper at least, the dreaming consciousness is similar to waking consciousness. I guess you could think of it as being a bit like other situations in which our consciousness is somewhat altered, like when you consume a psychoactive substance or during states of psychosis. We don't know a lot about the more granular processes that define dreaming or how they relate to waking, but we do know that there are higher levels of acetylcholine in the brain during REM sleep than during other sleep stages, while other neurotransmitter systems, like serotonin and norepinephrine, are generally offline. But to be honest, we still don't have a super clear understanding of how dreams manifest in the brain. We can record the brain activity and map it to specific brain regions that we know do certain things when we're conscious, but that doesn't mean it always lines up exactly to the dream. We're not even really clear where dreams originate. Are they a top-down phenomenon that begins with abstract thoughts and memories in the higher order areas of the brain? Or are they more of a bottom-up phenomenon that arise from activity in sensory areas that are then synthesized into some sort of narrative or meaning by the higher order processing centers? And of course, almost all of what I've talked about here is about REM sleep, but we know that people dream in other sleep stages too. So what do dreams look like during those sleep stages? Part of why it's challenging to study dreams is the same reason that it's challenging to study many aspects of consciousness and thought. Because much like waking thought, dreams are a personal internal thing. We can study REM sleep in animals, but is that really studying dreaming if the animals can't tell us what they're experiencing? Some studies using brain imaging techniques have been able to pick up on activity patterns that indicate that a person is talking, walking, or moving their hands in a dream, but it's not easy to do. A person has to undergo multiple sessions in the MRI scanner to train the computer by thinking about those social interactions, or thinking about walking around, or shaking hands. And then later, sleeping in the scanner so the computer can track your brain in your sleep and see if it can pick up on the same activity patterns. So it's not so much that the machines can read your dreams as it is that the computers recognize the same brain activity patterns whether you're awake or asleep. Now, as we refine the technology more, I think we'll be able to better understand the connectivity patterns and the signaling differences we see in dreams versus the waking brain. And I hope that better understanding those elements of dreaming will maybe give us some insights into why we dream at all. Because like I said, it's weird enough that we spend a third of our lives unconscious. Why add random hallucinations into the mix? Maybe they are symbolic messages from another plane, or maybe they're just random noise in the brain. With enough time, we might figure it out. With how rapidly technology is developing, it really wouldn't surprise me if a few decades from now, we had VR systems that let you just hop into other people's dreams, or brain chips that could let you lucid dream whenever you closed your eyes. But who knows what we'll be learning in just the next few years about how it all works. Speaking of rapid advancements in technology and understanding the mysteries of the human mind, have you ever heard about Imprint? You like that transition? They're the sponsor of the video, and I know that this is usually where people like to skip through the video, but stick with me because I'm genuinely excited to tell you about Imprint because I'm super impressed with their service. Imprint is an interactive learning app that lets you learn about all kinds of topics, from science to economics to philosophy, in these visually appealing, bite-sized courses, book summaries, and articles. Like many of you, my life is super busy these days. Between my day job and YouTube and homeownership and having a baby, there's just not a lot of time left in my day to learn a new skill or read a book. So I love that Imprint lets me learn something new in just a few minutes a day. Now I'm reading about the philosophy of Stoicism and effective communication in the workplace through these really fun lessons that I can complete in like 2 minutes while I'm brushing my teeth. I love learning new things, and I'm so pumped that now I can jump in and pick up new threads in new arenas whenever I want. You can dive into their wide variety of topics, but I was especially excited to see a lot of science and technology on their list. If you don't have time to go watch our video about sleep, you might consider taking a few minutes to read Imprint's visual guide to Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep, which uses fun animations to walk through why we sleep, the dangers and costs of sleep deprivation, and how we can improve our sleep. As someone with a baby, this is a topic of interest to me for sure, though I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to make many changes to my sleep habits anytime soon. I'm looking forward to checking out some of their other timely science topics like climate change and mRNA vaccines too. So if you wanna check it out for yourself, you can try Imprint for free for a full 7 days. Just click the link down in the description. The first 200 of you to click that link will get 20% off your Imprint annual premium subscription, so don't wait. If you made it this far, jump down into the comments and tell me about some of your weird dreams. Or maybe better yet, tell me about some of your favorite dreams. What's something really memorable or fun you've gotten to do because you were dreaming? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of Neurotransmissions. Until our next transmission, I'm Allie Astrocyte. Over and out.